ex-boyfriend. Y'all were married.
Yes, sir, we were.
Why is she referring to you as her ex-boyfriend?
I have no idea, sir. We're legally married, sir.
Is that a fact? Just probation?
I
I mean,
don't
this
have
probable
any, I
cause
don't have
that
any
they
document.
write just what is told. Why would anybody? Why would a married person, ceremonially married, say it's my ex-boyfriend? I mean, that's just bizarre. And listen, and she said, you grabbed her, threw her to the ground, and punched her with a closed fist. About the most unmanly thing you can do to punch out girls. It's not those kind of people were dealt with pretty severely where I grew up. That you don't punch girls. You don't punch guys. You shouldn't be doing that. But picking on a girl is kind of weak in the character. I don't like this. Second time you've been convicted of burglarizing with assaulting behavior. So we're going to put you through some training that you should have learned when you were a child. And that is respecting others, especially people you claim you love. Or what do we need to do? Do you only have any contact with this person until I tell you? Do you have a GPS device?
Yes,
so we know where you are?
Yes,
What kind of?
we monitor that.
Right. What else can we do?
I mean, he's in BIP right now. He is doing what we're requiring of him.
Okay,
So
anything else we need?
at this point, just, continue to have no contact with her, and then maybe we review it again at a later time once he's completed that program.
Okay, how long is it going to take?
He still has 10 sessions, which is 10 weeks. So I would say at least 3 or 4 months.
Okay, we're going to review it in 3 months. All right, get a resetting. And these are 2 cases here, not only the burglary, but the evading arrest that he was pleaded to. Chadston Brightson, John?
They said it's good. I don't know if we can reschedule.
Up here.
It was set for a hearing.
It's ready for evidentiary hearing for you to make a decision about it.
On a motion to revoke probation,
Yes.
you mean?
Yes.
Okay, so when can we do that?
I'm actually missing my detective that I need
Yeah,
for this judge.
Let's
So
set
can we
it for
have a
some,
reset?
okay,
Yeah,
so
that's fine with me, whatever date y'all want to set it for. I can be available.
1 week?
Won't be here.
Yes.
The 12th of November, judge.
Friday, it's the state farm,
Oh,
and then it's the holiday, the 19th.
Whatever,
2 weeks.
whatever works for you.
Let's set for 2 weeks
Sounds
on a
good.
Friday. Can we do that?
Yeah.
What did she say?
It would be 3 weeks because 2 weeks is the holiday. So then you would want the next week.
That, whatever works, I'm good for that.
Okay, 3 weeks, and then we'll get something hopefully done. Whitney Beck. Whitney Beck, where's Whitney Beck? Is she in custody?
She's running late. She can call be here at say,
Eden Jones, please. Hello. Do you have an attorney? And this is a motion to revoke probation pending, right?
Yes.
Well, you don't have an attorney? I mean, let's see, this is costs and arrearages and restitution. Well, I mean, here's the deal is that it's a 2nd-degree felony of aggravated assault. You were sentenced to 2 years or 5 years. How did that happen?
That's on my.
Hold on for just a second. I'm asking a rhetorical question on this one.
Yes,
How
sir.
did that happen? How did she get a regular probation on an aggravated assault with a deadly weapon? I didn't think we could do that.
Well, we have additional problems in that regard.
Anyway,
Maybe you want to read my notes there and I want to share all that on YouTube. If you can read my handwriting.
All right, well, get me,
I'm going to take care of that. I'm sorry, I didn't see that till just now.
all right. Okay, we're gonna, this estate's looking into something, ma'am, and we're gonna hold this in abeyance here. I want you back, next week, Wednesday. On a Wednesday for a review of where we stand on this.
It's either Tuesday or Thursday, when for me, it's for integrate pictures. I don't have to click that.
Tuesday, yes, Tuesday, okay. Thank you today.
Man, the young man,
He's what?
he has done, we suspended his 180-day weekend jail, so he's been working weeks that
Yeah, okay, what is this, what is the status?
he's doing very well. He is working, he's paying all fees, he's doing his he's working on his GED class and he can,
Where are you in that?
I downloaded an app on my phone because I can't anything.
Where are you in it? Have you begun it yet?
Yeah, I have a little bit. I have to use it on it. It shows me a video on it and then it makes me take pop quiz on it.
And then you get your GED? There's gotta be more, there's gotta be more than that. I mean, it's a high school equivalency, which means 12 grades are thrown into that process. And generally it occurs over a period of time that's longer than 10 or 15 minutes.
I called the Texas workforce place and as I was going right there to take my class and they gave me a phone number to call. I've been calling, but the person that I'm supposed to be calling hasn't answered.
Okay, so the burden is on you to work to get it done.
So
Okay. There's nothing wrong with an education. It's maybe the most important and meaningful thing you can really do in life because it helps you make better decisions and keeps you out of this courtroom on cases like aggravated robbery. Okay. What do we want to do to that?
you continue him, just let him continue to work and be productive. And if he violates in any way, is he not compliance?
Okay, do we need to set this for a review or anything like that? Because I'm curious about where he's going in his education. You know, that's what I want to know about.
If he falls off in compliance, Your Honor.
Okay, because that's important. That opens doors of opportunity. You gave me this document. Do you want to put this in the file?
I want to,
Yeah, I'll scan it in.
Ma'am?
yes, sir. One in the file, please, just so we.
No.
Right.
Okay, good luck. Keep doing good things. Yes, thank you. Jessica Moya. Jessica Moya, please. Is she here? Jessica Moya? No answer. I asked the bailiff to call into the hall for Jessica Moya. Actually, it's Mota Para. Did you see her out there by any chance?
I'm not sure.
Just covering, it's not her normal person.
It's a way to do it, but you have the left hand and the right hand direction. These look like, yeah, community service, money, tons of restitution. Come forward. You were Jessica Mota?
Yes.
You've been on probation here since February 4th of 13 years ago.
Yes.
And this is all about really money, right?
Yes, sir.
There's something about performing community service hours, but I'm more concerned about the restitution of $30,000+ to the victims that are still to be paid.
I see some notes from the prior hearing judge that you waived the remaining community service hours to have her focus on restitution.
Is that what everybody shows?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then why do we, okay, this was a motion to revoke probation that was filed 3 years ago. So I don't see anything on it that we, wrote on, but I don't have a problem with the community service hours. I just want you to work to pay the people back the loss. The restitution was ordered in the amount of $53,485 originally, and that was 13 years ago. And so what's the balance today?
The balance today is $16,677, with her last payment being on May 29th in the amount of $520.
Okay, 16,000.
$677, yes, sir.
All right. How much out of this whole amount how much have you paid toward this restitution over time now?
I paid.
About $40,000.
Mhm.
All right, I'm pleased. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll all celebrate when all this is done, but this is important. Not only the victim, but this is for the court and for you as well. You were placed on deferred or unadjudicated probation, which means at the end you do well. The case is dismissed
Yes, sir.
without a conviction.
Yes, sir.
Okay, where are you working?
I work for Dr. Bott.
Okay, and how much money are you able to pay a month on this restitution?
Paying $520 a month.
You are?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So in 12 months, what is that? 62,000, which would more than pay this. 6,000, I mean, which would go well toward almost paying that off.
Mhm.
So,
That's the goal.
all right, we review when? 6 months?
6 months.
Okay, maybe we can celebrate.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Please get a recess. Yes, ma'am. Jay Nelson?
Just.
Jay Nelson? No answer in the courtroom. I asked the bailiff to call into the hall for Jay
Yeah, yes.
Nelson, please.
Yeah.
This was,
It's a safety review.
This is from probation.
there's no response to the name called here in the courtroom. No response to that name called into the hall. Defendant has failed to appear. There was a resetting ordered for today and for review of status, and the defendant has failed to appear. What can probation tell me about things? I'm looking at an administrative hearing memo that was dated May 28th, a week ago or so, and it's not looking good. And failed to report to probation,
Yes, sir.
failed to submit the alcohol drug screenings. Oh,
He completed the entire safety continuum and stopped reporting. I've talked to him once. I tried to call him today. He doesn't answer text messages, letters, or
well, that's his obligation, not for you to go find him, but for him to report his directly. I am signing this order, ordering a motion to revoke probation to be filed, and then we'll deal with it. When, yep, we'll order, a motion. Thank you, for trying to help this guy, but sometimes people work against themselves. And he's, hold on for just a second. He's looking at a second degree felony of burglary of a habitation, so he's looking at up to 20 years. 10 years deferred, yep. That's gonna sting. Leatrice Washington, please. That's you, ma'am? Okay. So this one is another money thing. You were placed on probation and there was a ton of restitution ordered. And we are headed toward a decade. Okay. Well, what's the update?
So she has made a total credit of $37,641 since she's been on probation. She has been earned and doing what she can each month. She has amount due is still $137,619 as of today. And we are coming up on her expiration in October of this year. And her last payment was made on June 3rd in the amount of $802.
Do you have a set amount that you're able to pay per month? Is it different amounts she pays each month? It's what she can,
Yes.
huh?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's very effective. So it's averaging out over a decade at $300 a month. Right at $300 a month. So there's still a significant amount of money still left, right?
Yes, sir.
Would you say the balance was?
As of today, it's $137,619.
Scanning of the such a salaries. Pages, but it's just in some effect, you know. Motion.
You're right.
Hold on.
Judge.
Hold on. So. Okay, at this rate, that's 45 years.
Yeah.
We should live so long.
Yeah.
But I mean, the rule of law is pay what you can. So what are we doing to do what you can? That's all I need to know.
So I did do an amendment for all of her payments to go to the restitution because it's sizable.
Thanks. Yeah, let's just focus on restitution.
As far as future, I would recommend possibly filing an MTRP to keep her case open so we can try to get as many payments as we can.
What's the anniversary date?
October 16th.
For this year?
Yes, sir.
We're gonna have to do that. Which means you get processed in, but there's, it's a personal recognizance bond.
Yes, sir.
That I would set, which means you don't have to have, it's not an amount that you have to come up with. just your actual presence that bonds you in and bonds you out. So the income is based upon what source? Most-
So I feel we were a little overtime to make those payments. And what I was gonna say is that yes, I paid a little bit more than that, but originally until recently, all the payments weren't going to restitution. I paid a little over 50,000, but all of them wasn't going towards restitution. It just currently, recently, just started to.
Okay, well, it's gonna all go toward restitution from here on, and let me see her phone again, please. Just. Let's see, that was almost $200,000 embezzled from the company. What did you do with that money?
Actually, it was spent towards different things. It was spent towards, different, medical procedures that was needed that I didn't even transfer the time. It was just a lot of various things that should have, but I think most definitely say.
Yeah.
But then the last few years, I haven't even had a traffic tickets.
Yeah, I just wish we could have gotten to you early and said, nope, you're spending unwisely.
Yes.
All right. Because this is gonna last a while at this rate. I want you to live a long time.
I hope so.
But we're talking, at this rate, it's another 45 years. Okay, well, let's review in
6 months.
6 months, okay? Thank you. Good resetting. Anything from the state? I know you had.
Nothing
You were
from the
gonna.
state, Judge.
Did we cover what you were gonna? Yes. Okay. I know how you do math. I know, I was trying to beat you to that. All right,
I was cheating though, Judge. I was using a calculator.
4th place in number sense in state. That's where I ended up in high school. Math was just, it was one thing I could do. Okay, anything else on this? All right, let's get ready for trial. Yeah. What did we do on Whitney Beck?
She just showed up. Yeah, I thought she did.
Okay. Come on up. Whitney Beck. Where's Whitney Beck?
Have the file.
Come on up. I've got one. This is a review,
Yes.
probation review. And where are we on this? It was scheduled as the initial review from an administrative hearing memo sent to me in March of this year, which alleged several things.
I'm sorry, I'm late. I didn't get a
And
notice.
this alleges well, an uncertain thing about a injurious or vicious habits in violation 2 of your probation order. Failing to obtain permission to leave Texas. The state testing positive for THC. Really?
Yes.
Failing to remain off the premises of any bar, tavern, or similar place. Failing to perform community service. Failing to abstain from the use of intoxicating substances. Failing to submit to alcohol, drug screening at the direction of the probation office, and then behind in court fees. Yeah. All right. What does anybody want to say before I say something about where this should head?
So we requested the judicial review simply because originally when we called Ms. Beck in to speak, it was about simple allegations that we were hoping to intervene with. It wasn't until the original hearing took place and we requested way and behaviors started taking place in which were not acceptable. However, on that day, she submitted a urine sample that was cold. And so attempting to get that done or redone, a new sample, she began to have anxiety and things, and it just escalated. So we asked her to leave the building and we would come back on.
Today,
Well, this was at administrative level. And we tried to come back again and do the same thing, and we just aren't having success having any conversation with that. So that's what we requested the judicial review for.
okay. What's they say?
I'd like to hear what you say, Judge.
I want a motion to revoke probation.
Okay, we can get that filed.
We could do that today.
Your Honor, please, I just not half of what is actually true, sir.
That's why we're going to have a hearing and we will see, but I trust my probation office. My probation office has almost a 95% success rate. The national average is 75. They try hard for success on the people, and that's what I want. And I've done this for almost 20 years, and it's always the defendant at fault, not the probation office. Failing to, let's see, I don't even know what that one is. That's a nebulous one. Failing to obtain permission to leave Texas in March. Testing positive for THC, tetrahydrocannabinol, marijuana. Failing to remain off the premises of any bar, tavern, lounge, or similar place. Let's see. Has not completed any of the court order. Has she completed any court ordered community service?
I have to pay for it.
I'm asking her, and then I'll ask you, Miss Budinsky. I can see where we are on this. The tail is wagging the dog. You're on probation, but I know what you're doing. I know what this. You want to be on your own probation terms. See, I know how you are. I recognize this.
Your Honor, none of the hours have been completed.
None have been completed.
In
Okay.
order for her to pay or to be eligible for a particular program, in order to spend money on community service, she would have to be current on her fees.
You've been on probation for how long?
I'm almost done, almost 2 years, sir.
My question was, you've been on probation for how long?
2 years, sir.
2 years.
Yes, sir.
Zero community supervision, community service, zero. What was this about the failed to submit the alcohol drug screening on February 24th? Tampered and tainted the UA sample. That was the cold urine that came out of her 98.6 degrees body.
Yes.
It's not possible.
You just, once again, you're going to have a chance to speak, Miss Budinsky. That's rude. We learned that in kindergarten. And then owing a balance. Okay. Anything you want to say now? This is your chance. You've been
Yes,
trying to interrupt
I'm sorry.
long enough, but I can guarantee you, cold urine is not a natural
No,
phenomenon.
sir, it's not.
Okay, so it's their fault? Did they do something
No,
wrong?
sir.
Okay.
I'm not saying they did.
Oh.
No, sir. I just know that it's not possible as well.
Okay.
The test strips, don't know what could have been wrong, but they have you pee in a plastic cup, not a one with temperature. And only reason and I never left any state. I have no idea what accusations. I've been going through a custody battle with my son. I had to spend $10,000 recently. That's why I'm behind. I plan on getting caught up as soon as that hearing is done. I have one more hearing. I just got a vehicle. My car blew up in March. I've been having to catch a ride to work. It's not an excuse, but
No.
I've been getting it done.
All right.
Your Honor, we do have a second test that was disputed for marijuana. It did come back from the lab confirmed positive for THC.
And, okay.
So.
Okay. We've got an anniversary date of this probation too coming up.
That's all good.
The court is going to order a motion to revoke probation to be filed, then we'll have a hearing on it and everybody will get heard and we'll figure out what direction that needs to go in. But these are disturbing, and I'm really anxious to hear the story about the urine, because this is a science, and you don't urinate cold urine. It's your body temperature that comes out, and also the test, the drug test,
The second,
that drug test was confirmed by a more. And what do you do for a living?
I'm a forensic chemist. I work at the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences. I got a problem with throat.
Do you need some water or anything?
No. The Dallas County Crime Lab. I've been there for 27 years.
And before that, were you employed at another lab?
Yes, sir, I was. I started in 1986. I started with the Texas Department of Public Safety Crime Lab, originally as a breath test technical supervisor, stationed in Wichita Falls. I then transferred to the headquarters crime lab in Austin. I spent approximately 9 years as a 37th examiner. Then I trained to be a drug chemist, and I was transferred to the DPS crime lab in Houston. Prior to coming to Dallas, to the SWIFT or the Southwest Institute.
And just a little bit of background education. What type of education did you have before you started working at these laboratories?
Yes, I've got a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry with a minor in mathematics.
And the laboratory you work for, is it certified by the state of Texas?
Yes, it is accredited. It's accredited by ANBD, recognized by the Forensic Science Commission.
Okay. Back in October of 2023, were you working for the Southwestern Institute of Forensic Sciences at Dallas?
Yes, sir.
And were you in the capacity of a scientist, forensic scientist who's dealt with gunshot residue?
Yes, I was.
Let's kind of give the jury an explanation of gunshot residue. What is gunshot residue?
So there are basically two types of gunshot residue, but specifically, in this case, I'm talking about primer gunshot residue. The primer gunshot residue are residue particles that originate within the primer cup of a cartridge. So there's a chemical mixture that contains elements of antimony, barium, and lead. And those chemical elements create a shot-sensitive mixture that once the firing pin strikes the primer cup, it will ignite the gunpowder, causing the projectile to be sent down range through the barrel.
And can that, whenever someone fires or handles a weapon, can that be transferred to a person's clothing or a person's body?
Yes, so when a firearm is discharged, there's a vaporous cloud of those elements from the primer cup. And they can be deposited on the hands of the person firing the firearm or in the space immediately around the weapon or downrange towards the target. So anybody in vicinity of or coming in contact with those residues could potentially have those residue particles on their hands and or clothing.
I say potentially that there is a possibility, just to be fair, that a person firing a firearm could not have gunshot residue on their hands. Is that correct?
That is also correct, yes.
And is that due to different things, type of weapon, weather, things of that nature?
Yeah, so the type of firearm involved may have an effect on that. Semi-automatic firearms typically don't deposit as much residue as a revolver type handgun. And then you can have environmental factors, such as wind or rain or physical activity, contact with other objects, can remove residue from your hands and clothing.
So if it was like hours between the actual shooting and the actual testing, that could have an effect as to whether they wash their hands, touch, rub something, have their hands in their pockets, anything of that nature.
Yes, so not an analogy I've used for many years is back in the old days when teachers used chalk to write on the chalkboard. Before you pick up the stick of chalk, let's just say you have no chalk dust on your hand. But as soon as you pick up the stick of chalk, you get chalk dust on your hand. And as you're writing, you get more residue on your hand. But then when you put down the stick of chalk over time, every time you touch other objects, clothing, books, desk or whatever, those residue particles transfer and are removed from your hands. So over a period of time, typically 4 to 6 hours, residue may be removed or reduced to non-detectable levels. Also, if you wash your hands, just simple water, washing with water or soap and water would certainly remove those particles.
So what do we use to test someone to see if there's gunshot residue particles on their clothing or hand?
Okay, so the current sampling technique involves what we call SEM stubs, stands for scanning electron microscopy stubs. And these sampling devices are shaped like a thumbtack. There's a flat circular disc surface that's 1 centimeter in diameter, which is roughly half an inch in diameter. And then there's a pin on the bottom half of it, which is used to hold in the sampling chamber inside the electron microscope. And on the flat surface has a 2-sided adhesive tape, and that's used to basically you're tape lifting, you're dabbing that sampling device on the item that's being collected from. And it basically is tape lifting and lifting particles onto the sampling device.
Let me show you what's been marked as States Exhibits 321 and 322. See if you recognize those items.
Yes, State Exhibit 321 is a gunshot residue evidence collection kit. And I can identify it by our laboratory number, IFS-23-09457, our item number 3, and my initial PWS, and the date 8/7 of 23. And then for the other GSR kit is State Exhibit 322. I can identify this kit by the laboratory number, IFS-23-09457, item number 2. My initial is DWS and the date 8/7 of 23.
Now, I've opened one of those items for detectives to look at, but when these arrive at your laboratory, are they in a sealed condition?
Yes, they are.
Will y'all accept them if they're not in a sealed condition, or will you know if they're not in a sealed condition?
We accept them, but we will note the condition of the seal when we receive it. It's actually pretty rare that they're not sealed, but we will seal them and make notation as to the condition and what we did.
Both of these were sealed when they arrived, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and States 321, who is that a gunshot residue collection from?
State Exhibit 321 is a gunshot residue kit from Jaron Athens.
And States 322, what is that?
This is a gunshot residue kit from Armani Wallace.
Interstates 321 and 322.
No objection.
Admitted. Let's kind of get these out so they can see what's inside of States Exhibit 321. They would both be the same items in there, just different testing. Is that correct?
Typically, yes.
So looking at these items in here, what do we see here?
Okay, so there are two sampling devices and they're contained within a sampling device container. The orange colored piece is the base where the pin of the sampling device is retained. It basically holds it in place so it doesn't come into contact with any other surface. And then a clear cap. So each one of these will have a sampling device contained within the plastic vial.
And these are pulled and rubbed on the outside of the hands as they go. I think the detective says it goes along inside this portion of the hand and the top of the back. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I can't speak specifically to who collected this particular set of sampling devices, but typically this region of the hand and the back of the hand, some other sampling devices, they do both the back and the palm of the hand.
Now, also contained inside of State Exhibit 321 is a gunshot residue analysis information form. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what is the purpose of this? Let me zoom it in more. What is the purpose of this form?
So this typically is used by law enforcement. They will document the collecting officer's name, in this particular case, the name, the badge number, the agency and the agency case number. And then subject information, the name of the individual the samples are being collected from, their date of birth, whether they're living, whether they're left-handed or right-handed, whether they handle a firearm.
So there's one question here that says, has subject washed his or her hands since shooting? And this one was checked what?
That was not checked. Oh, wait, no, the subject activity. Oh, unknown.
Okay.
It was on the wrong box.
And the person was in custody, is that correct at the time?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So down here we have the shooting information. What is important about the shooting information?
So the shooting information will document the date and time of the offense or the activity, as well as the location, which in this indicates in the parking lot. And sometimes if they know what ammunition was fired, they will have information regarding the handgun or the firearm that was used, as well as the caliber and the manufacturer of the ammunition.
Why is that important?
We don't use it necessarily in my analysis, but it helps to document some of the facts that are known at the time.
So this says the date and time it occurred. Can you read that? Can you look back behind?
Like March 18th.
If you need to look behind you, you can. There's a screen back behind you. Stand up if you need to.
I think over your left shoulder. There we go. Thanks, Tom.
Yes, March 18th of 23 at 2:53 a.m.
And down here at the bottom, is this the collecting officer's signature?
It would appear to indicate that, yes.
And when did he actually take this?
On March 18th of 2023 at 7:08 a.m.
So this is about 4 hours.
Just a little over 4 hours. Yes.
Lonnie Wallace, we're going to cover that at another date. But right now I want to talk about your report.
Okay.
Did you prepare a report about items that you received in this case
Yes, I did.
and the testing of those items?
Yes. I did.
And let me show you what's marked as State's Exhibit 450. Is this a copy that you handed me of your report?
Yes, I'm looking at the pages. Okay, yes, this is a gunshot residue test report with our laboratory number IFS 23 09457. And it's a gunshot residue testing report that I generated. It consists of 6 pages.
Interstate's 450.
No objection. No objection, it is admissible.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear it. I was waiting on him.
Okay.
He's waiting on me and I'm waiting on him.
Admit it again.
Okay, thank you. So at the top of this report, we have the title of your institute, is that correct?
That is correct.
And is that where you perform this test?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And the report date is October 11th, 2023, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is that the date you tested it or is that just the date of the report?
That's the date of the report.
So let's talk about when you test an item, how do you go about testing specifically that item for gunshot residue?
Okay, so let me talk a little bit about how we received the evidence. The evidence is submitted to our laboratory. It's received in our evidence registration unit where they assign a case number and an item number. And then they store it in a secured vault until it's time for me to pull the evidence to work on it. So once I have the evidence in my custody, I take inventory, I make notes of what I've received, the items, the lab number. And then I open the evidence kit and itemize each individual sampling device, or actually on the vial, write case number, item number, initials and dates. And then we do a microscopic or stereoscopic examination, just looking at the surface of the sampling device to see if there's any obvious hair, blood, or possibly gunpowder flakes, different stuff, different types of debris. Then we at the same time, we have what we call a negative batch control or environmental control, which is simply an unused sampling device. It's the same type of device that is in the GSS kit. So once we assemble a set of kits in a batch, we then place each one of the sampling devices into an instrument that's called a carbon coater. And we evaporate a very thin layer of carbon on the surface of each one of the sample devices. And that's used to aid in the analysis in a scanning electron microscope. So once we've done that, we then load the sampling devices into the stage in the chamber of the scanning electron microscope, which is also equipped with an X-ray detector. So utilizing the scanning electron microscope and the X-ray detector, there's software that will perform an automated scan of each sampling device. It'll scan the surface of each sampling device. And for every particle that the instrument flags as a potential GSR particle, it will collect a very quick image of the particle as well as a quick X-ray spectra from the particle. So once the automated analysis completes, we get a large spreadsheet, depending on the number of particles. We get a spreadsheet of potential particles that were classified as gunshot residue by the software. And so we don't rely on that, but we use that as a starting point. And if we will tell the instrument to relocate those specific particles that we believe are gunshot residue, we take a new image and a new X-ray spectra for a much longer period of time, so we get better element data. So from that, we have an image of the particle and we have the X-ray spectra, which gives us elemental composition information, whether it's part.
So what offense did this show that the purpose of the testing was for?
So we draw that from the submission form, and it says aggravated assault
And
homicide.
okay. And the complainants?
So there's two names, Armando Camargo and Geraldo Escamilla.
Okay. And the suspects?
Jaron Battles, Cameron Broussard, Jaquan Lee Cooper, and Armani Wallace.
So let's look at the evidence that was submitted. Is this what was received by your laboratory?
Yeah,
Testing.
yes, those are received from Beaumont Police Department.
Okay. So you look at your list if you need to. We'll just go down. Item 1. What is that?
So item 1 is a gunshot residue evidence collection kit containing sampling devices from Jaquan V. Cooper.
And 1-1, what is the difference? Why we go 1 to 1-1 and 1-2?
Okay, so the envelope that I showed you earlier, that would be item 1 is the envelope. And then we sub-itemize the contents of the envelope. So each sampling device. So if the envelope is 1, then one sampling device will be 1-1. The other will be 1-2. So we're sub-itemizing each individual sampling device.
So what was 1-1?
So 1-1 is a sampling device from the left hand of Jaquan V. Cooper.
And 1-2?
That is a sampling device from the right hand of Jaquan V. Cooper.
Okay, what was item 2 that you received?
Item 2 was a gunshot residue evidence collection kit containing sampling devices from Armani Wallace.
And inside that, what was 2-1?
2-1 is a sampling device from the left hand of Armani Wallace.
And 2-2?
That is a sampling device from the right hand of Armani Wallace.
And item 3?
Item 3 is a gunshot residue evidence collection kit containing sampling devices from Jaron Bowers.
And 3-1, what was that?
3-1 is a sampling device from the left hand of Jaron Bowers.
And 3-2?
That is a sampling device from the right hand of Jaron Bowers.
And item 4?
Item 4 is a gunshot residue evidence collection kit containing sampling devices from Cameron Broussard.
And 4-1?
4-1 is a sampling device from the left hand of Cameron Broussard.
And 4-2?
That is a sampling device from the right hand of Cameron Broussard.
So why are we going 5-1 instead of 5?
So I believe there was a bag or container containing clothing.
Okay.
So we don't always list the outer containers, but the items contained within it, especially for clothing. So so there are going to be multiple items of clothing contained within a container.
Okay. So 5-1, what was that?
5-1 is a red sweater from Armani Wallace.
And 5-2?
That is a pair of red sweatpants from Armani Wallace.
And 5-3?
That is a white t-shirt from Armani Wallace.
Okay, and 6-1?
6-1 is a pair of white sweatpants from Jaron Bowers.
7-1?
That is a red hoodie from Jaron Bowers.
And 7-2?
That is a white t-shirt from Jaron Bowers.
And 7-3?
That is a red bandana from Jaron Bowers.
Okay. So we've already gone over the GSR testing of how you do this, correct? What is this language that we have for the next couple of pages of your testing?
Okay, so the title for that section is description of analysis, and it's broken into multiple parts. And basically the reason we put that in there is sometimes in a criminal case, people accept a plea bargain. They don't actually go to trial. And so we're not called as a witness. So we put verbiage into the report so the attorneys, we can educate the attorneys as to what we actually do and what the results mean. So basically it's to aid the attorneys in that process.
So all the things you just testified to about how you test it and what it means, that's in that language.
Correct.
Now, there is something that we do have particles consistent with gunshot primer residue, but those only contain some parts. Is that correct?
Yes. So the goal, or what we typically look for primarily, are what we call characteristic particles. And those are going to be individual particles that have the elements antimony, barium, and lead. And that the only reliable source of those particles is from firearms. Now, sometimes, well, a lot of times we get two of the three elements. We don't get all three, we get two. So we may have barium lead particles or barium antimony particles, but also in addition to that, sometimes we get barium and aluminum particles. And those are all common to gunshot residue, but they're not exclusive to gunshot residue. They can come from other environmental sources.
But what you're looking for is the extra element that only comes from gunshot primer residue, not from these elements, right?
That is correct, yes.
You talked about how you interpret it and your testimony. That's in the, also on page 2, is that correct?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's on part B of page 2.
Okay, part B. Now, because there's gunshot residue, let's just make sure that they understand, and I don't know if I made it clear. Because there's gunshot residue on a person's clothing or hand, does that necessarily mean they fired a firearm?
No, it does not.
Okay, so let's talk about what does it mean, or how can people get gunshot residue on their hand, either firing a firearm or otherwise?
So there are different ways to get residue particles, gunshot residue particles on your hand. One would be that the individual fired a firearm. Or two is that they are in the proximity of a firearm when the firearm is discharged. Or three is that you come into contact with a firearm component such as a cartridge case or other object that has gunshot residue on it.
So you everything that you've testified is in the first 3 pages of your report, is that correct?
Yes.
So let's get to page 4 with the results and conclusions of what you found in each one of these items.
Okay.
And this says at the top of the page, the results reported apply only to the tested items, is correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So under results and conclusions, what do we have listed under results and conclusions, that first paragraph?
So the first paragraph states that the white T-shirt from Armani Wallace, item 5-3, comma, the white T-shirt from Jerem Battles, item 7-2, comma, and the red bandana from Jerem Battles, parentheses, item 7-3, were examined visually. However, they were not sampled for the presence of primary gunshot residue.
Why would you not sample the white T-shirts and things under that they're wearing next to their skin?
So we typically do not sample underlying garments. So if you have a sweater or a hoodie or jacket covering a T-shirt, the residue will be deposited on the outer surface. So we don't typically analyze the underlying garments.
Okay, let's go to the next paragraph. This one starts off with primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on items 1-1 and 1-2. What are we talking about here?
Okay, so the second paragraph states that primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices, parentheses, item 1-1 and 1-2, used to collect residue from the hands of Jaquan B. Cooper. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's hand could be due to the individual. And then 1 is not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. 2, discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant, parentheses, characteristic or, parentheses, consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the firing hand. And 3 is washing or wiping of the hands after discharging or handling a firearm component or object with primary gunshot residue.
So the ideal thing is to catch them right after they do it and then get somebody to be able to swab them immediately.
Yes, ideally it'd be best if you can collect the sample as soon as possible after an incident occurs.
Is that?
The longer you wait, the less chance of finding particles on those surfaces.
So when you have, is it always possible to swab somebody right away? Or do sometimes things interfere?
Typically, there's gonna be some time frame between an offense and time there. An individual is captured and evidence collected from their hands or clothing.
So let's go to the next one, the one particle.
Yes. So one particle, in parentheses one, particle characteristic of primary gunshot residue was confirmed on, and then we list item 2-1, which is a sampling device from the left hand of Armani Wallace. There were 0 particles. Then item 2-2 was a sampling device from the right hand of Armani Wallace. There was 1 particle. And the presence of this particle on an individual's hand could be due to the individual firing a firearm, being in proximity of the firearm when it was fired, or handling a firearm component, or an object with primary gunshot residue on it.
So when we get to each one of these, we test. If it tests positive, that's going to be listed below each one. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And the ones that we did before where there's nothing on it, that's going to those items under are going to be listed each time. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So we could just do the results. So
The verbiage may be slightly different when it's a garment.
okay, well, we'll get to that when we get to the environment. So let's do this. The next paragraph,
Let's see. This is on
line 3-1.
3-1. Okay. Primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices. Parentheses, items 3-1 and 3-2 used to collect residues from the hands of Jaron Bowders. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's hands could be due to the individual. One is not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. 2 is discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the firing hand. And 3, washing or wiping of the hands after discharging or handling a firearm component, or an object with primary gunshot residue.
Okay, let's go down to primary gunshot residue on 4-1, 4-2.
Okay, so primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices, parentheses items 4-1 and 4-2, used to collect residues from the hands of Cameron Broussard. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's hands could be due to the individual. 1 is not discharging a firearm or being in the close vicinity of a discharging firearm. 2 is discharging a firearm or being in the close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant characteristic or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the firing hand. And 3 is washing or wiping of the hands after discharging or handling a firearm component, or an object with primary gunshot residue.
Okay, 5-1.
Okay, so sampling devices were used to collect residues from the front exterior and cuffs of the red sweater, parentheses, item 5-1 of Armani Wallace.
Okay, let's talk about how y'all do that. What do you do when you're testing like a hoodie or sweater or a coat?
Sure. Right. So our standard lab procedure on a long sleeve garment such as a jacket or a sweater is we generally visually kind of break up into 6 different quadrants. So on the front of the garment, there's going to be the front upper left, the front upper right, front lower left, and front lower right, and then left cuff and right cuff. So we have 6 different sampling areas that we collect from.
So let's look at those. Primary gunshot residue on 5-1-1, 5-1, 5-2, 5-1-2, 5-1-3, 5-1-4, 5-1-5, 5-1-6.
Yes. So primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices. Items 5-1-1, 5-1-2, 5-1-3, 5-1-4, 5-1-5, and 5-1-6. Used to collect residues from the red sweater, parentheses 5-1 from Armani Wallace. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's garment could be due to the individual not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. Discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant characteristic or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the garment. Washing or wiping the garment after discharging or handling a firearm component or object with primary gunshot residue.
Now, this whole sweater on Armani Wallace, you did not find gunshot residue particles, is that correct?
That is correct.
But on his hand, you did find a particle.
I believe I did, yes.
Okay. So let's go to,
Verify that real quick. Yeah, there's one on the right hand of Armani Wallace.
okay. So let's go to item 5.2.
Okay, so 5.2, sampling devices were used to collect residues from the front upper exterior of the red sweatpants, parentheses item 5-2 of our Armani Wallace. Primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices, parentheses items 5-2-1 and 5-2-2, used to collect residues from the red sweatpants, parentheses item 5.2 from Armani Wallace. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's garment could be due to the individual, one, not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. Two is discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant characteristic or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the garment. And three is washing or wiping a garment after discharging or handling a firearm component or an object with primary gunshot residue.
Okay, next paragraph on item 6.1.
Okay, sampling devices used to collect residues from the front upper exterior of the white sweatpants, parentheses item 6.1 of Jaron battles. Primary gunshot residue particles were not detected on the sampling devices, parentheses items 6-1-1 and 6-1-2, used to collect residues from the white sweatpants, parentheses item 6.1 from Jaron battles. The absence of primary gunshot residue particles on an individual's garment could be due to the individual, one, is not discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a discharging firearm. Two is discharging a firearm or being in close vicinity of a firearm that does not deposit or produce significant characteristic or consistent with primary gunshot residue particles on the garment. Or three, washing or wiping the garment after discharging or handling a firearm component or an object with primary gunshot residue.
Okay, let's go to item 7.1.
Okay, sampling devices were used to collect residues from the front exterior and cuffs of the red hoodie, parentheses, item 7-1 of Jaron battles. One particle characteristic of primary gunshot residue was confirmed on, and I list each of the sampling devices. Item 7-1-1 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the front upper left, there were 0 particles. Item 7-1-2 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the front upper right, there were 0 particles. Item 7-1-3 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the front lower left, there were 0 particles. Item 7-1-4 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the front lower right, there were 0 particles. On item 7-1-5, which is a sampling device from item 7-1, the left cuff, there was 1 particle. And item 7-1-6 is a sampling device from item 7-1. From the right cuff, there were 0 particles. The presence of this particle on an individual's garment could be due to the individual firing a firearm handling a firearm, a firearm component, or an object with silent gunshot residue. 2 or 3, being in proximity of a firearm when it fired. And 4 is wiping a firearm component, or an object with firearm gunshot residue on the garment.
So that disposition of the evidence, was everything returned to the arresting agency or sending agency?
Yes, it was.
Okay. So let's talk about why some of these, when you read these that don't have or do have, when it says they don't have, you said they have to have a significant amount of gunshot primer residue coming from the gun or the characteristics. What do you mean significant?
Well, some firearms, especially like bolt action rifles or break action shotguns, there's a sealed firing chamber. So almost the entire amount of primary gunshot residue is expelled through the muzzle or the end of the barrel of the firearm. The semi-automatic firearm, the firing chamber is closed at the moment the shot is fired. And then very quickly, the slide will open the chamber and then rechamber around and quickly close back up in just a split second. So in that type of firearm, the majority of the residue goes through the barrel away from the shooter. And then there's sometimes a small vaporous cloud of contained residue particles that will be in the vicinity of the hand. And sometimes we find particles, sometimes we don't. If you had a revolver, there's going to be a physical gap between the rotating cylinder and the barrel. So there's going to be a relatively large amount of residue escaping both the left and right side of the firearm. And then the remainder goes downrange through the muzzle of the barrel.
So handguns, like in State's Exhibit 10, when you're talking about semi-automatic, is this what you're talking about?
Yes, that is a semi-automatic pistol.
And when you're talking about this being closed, it's closed back at the back, is it not, when the firing occurs?
Yes, yeah, it would be closed at the back, but I'm more concerned about the hole your thumb is
Right here?
Yeah, the ejection port of the firearm. So that is covered up by the barrel, the end of the barrel, when the slide is forward. And when you fire the firearm, the slide quickly comes back and quickly shuts. So it's only open for a split second. And there's going to be some residue come out, but not as much.
Okay.
As like typically a revolver would put out a lot of.
And just to be fair to the defendant, on State's Exhibit 321, does it state what handed, is Jared Battle right or left-handed?
The document indicates right-handed.
Okay. I mean, that doesn't enter into your, whether or not it could be deposited on either hand, does it?
No, it does not. I've done my own testing over the years. I'm left-handed. If I fire single hand with the left hand, I may or may not get residue on that hand. Sometimes I get it on the non-firing hand. Sometimes if I grip it with the left hand, but secure the grip, cover my left hand with my right hand, sometimes I get more residue on the right hand. It would be in reverse for a right-handed individual. You may fire it single hand with the right, or you may cover it with the left. But I've seen every combination. The firing hand doesn't always have residue. Sometimes it's on the non-firing hand. And sometimes it's not on either hand. Sometimes it's on both.
Thanks, sir. I'll pass one, Jeff.
On States 10, the firearm that you were just looking at, that ejection port is on the right-hand side. Is that correct?
It's the top and
Top right. And so the mechanism by which a semi-automatic handgun channels a new round is the gas is from the explosion, the force of the explosion itself pushes the slide back, correct?
Well, let me just say, I'm not a forensic firearms examiner. I'm not licensed to be a forensic firearms examiner. Some residue or some firearms have blowback mechanisms where the pressure, the gas pressure from firing a round forces the slide to go rearward and then a spring brings it forward. There are other types of mechanisms that I'm not, that's not me.
Your lab is not affiliated with the Department of Public Safety. You're an independent lab, is that correct?
That is correct.
Are there different criteria that different labs use when testing GSR kits, for instance?
Yes, different labs do have individual lab policies.
For example, a DPS lab won't accept samples taken after 4 hours. Is that accurate?
That is my understanding, yes.
Okay, but your lab does, correct?
Yes, we do.
All right, and indeed, the samples that were analyzed by your lab were indeed taken more than 4 hours after the incidents, correct?
Yes, at least one of them was, no,
Certainly, Mr. Battles was, correct?
correct.
All right. And so with regard to in terms of you listed being in the vicinity of a firearm being discharged as one of the reasons that someone might have a GSR either on their hands or on their clothing. What about being in crowded spaces? Is GSR something that can rub off fairly easily? For instance, if one person fired a weapon and you brush up against their hand shortly thereafter, is it possible to pick up particles in that manner as well?
Yes, that would be considered a secondary transfer. Transfer from, if residue is originally deposited on a hand, and that hand comes into contact with another object, that would be a secondary transfer from a first object to the second.
In your report, on the first page at the top, it says request 0002. What is that just a reference to the request that came in that day? Is that a request specific to that agency that's requesting the report?
So the request number is specific to our laboratory. So in some cases, we have only one submission that goes to one unit within the laboratory. And there's gonna be multiple requests. There's gonna be an evaluation request where each section involved in the case can evaluate the evidence that was submitted to see whether or not it's relevant to that section. But let's say there's a trace evidence request. We're gonna have a request to evaluate the evidence that was submitted just by looking at paperwork. And then if we determine that we need to do gunshot residue testing, that will become another request. And let's say there's bloody objects that may go through our forensic DNA unit. They may get a blood screening request and then a DNA screening request. So each case can have multiple different request numbers.
All generated at the same time because it's different components of testing like DNA and GSR?
They may not be necessarily at the same time, but over a period of time as individual units pick up evidence and create analysis requests, they're generated kind of as you go.
I guess what I'm asking is, it isn't necessarily that those numbers will be generated in steps. That is, you do an analysis and then the agency comes back to you and says, do this additional analysis, and therefore there's a new request number, but that if the agency sends you multiple materials to be tested, all of those numbers would be different requests. Is that correct?
Not entirely. So, for instance, if we do an analysis and the agency says, hey, can you do some additional work on that same evidence? That may become a supplemental report. Well, I guess technically it will have a request number. If we have DNA or drugs or some other section, there'll be request numbers for each one of those different requests.
In terms of different lab policies for the acceptance or testing of various articles, do you know why an agency might choose to send some materials to one lab and other materials to another? Is that something that's fairly common in your field, or?
I would say it's not uncommon. It's not real common, but it's not uncommon. Especially when some of the evidence goes to the Texas DPS crime lab, they will reject evidence like GSR kits that are beyond 4 hours. They reject those. And often we get the ones that exceed the 4-hour time frame. And then sometimes one lab may be able to do a certain type of analysis, but not every type of analysis requested. So we may get evidence that a particular lab could not handle. And vice versa, they may request us to do an analysis that we're not online, we're not performing that analysis, so it may get sent back to a different lab.
So one reason that you might be asked to conduct an analysis is if materials are sent to the DPS lab and rejected, or it is known that they will be rejected if they're sent to the DPS lab. Is that accurate?
That's pretty accurate, yes.
Okay. And so in this case, if some GSR test kits were sent to DPS and several of those were rejected, but those weren't sent to y'all for testing, you only would know, let me rephrase that. Let me back up. Would you know, generally speaking, if materials had previously been submitted to another lab?
Only the items, let's say, that went to DPS lab and got rejected because of whatever criteria they have. Sometimes they will put their case number, item number on a piece of evidence, and then they determine that, let's say it's a GSR kit that exceeds 4 hours. So then they reject it and they say, we don't analyze these. And then those go back typically to the agency, and the agency will then call us and ask if we can do the testing. So we do get cases that have gone through the DPS lab, rejected, they go back to agency and then come back to our lab for this.
Right. So, but that wasn't the case with regard to this evaluation, correct?
I do not recall ever seeing DPS lab numbers on any of the items I tested.
Right. The envelopes that these, or boxes that these materials are received in, everything that is done with that piece of evidence at various points is generally contained on the container that the evidence is in. Is that correct?
Not necessarily, not once it is submitted to a laboratory. We will put our case number, item number, initials, and date on items that we test. A lot of the GSR kits will have a little pre-printed, like a little mini chain of custody type document on the evidence envelope. We use a computer system, lab management information development system, where we track all of our internal transfers via the computer. We don't fill in a pre-printed information section on the GSR kits themselves.
And so, with regard to this specific case, is this the total number of GSR kits that was sent to your lab? In other words, would all GSR kits sent to your lab be on this report?
Yes, they would.
All right. And so, on this report, there are 4 suspects.
In this courtroom, a man asked the judge for permission to have contact with his wife again. But as the case unfolded, the judge discovered something disturbing. Years earlier, the defendant had already been convicted in a similar burglary case involving a woman he claimed to love. Now he was back in court after another violent incident. Prosecutors described allegations that he forced his way into a home, assaulted the victim, and then fled the scene. The judge wasn't convinced that enough had changed. He pointed out a troubling pattern and reminded the defendant that hurting the people you claim to love is unacceptable. Despite progress in counseling and probation, the judge refused to lift the restrictions and ordered continued supervision. Then the courtroom shifted to a major criminal trial, where forensic experts explained how gunshot residue evidence could help uncover what really happened during a shooting.